Joining us now, National Border Patrol Council President. He is the president of that council. He's Brandon Judd. Hey, it's so great to have you back on. Did you hear the story that Texas Senator Ted Cruz saying Republicans will likely impeach President Biden over the border collapse if they win back the House majority? What do you think of this?
I did hear about it, and I look at this and I ask myself, was there a crime committed by President Biden on the border? And I think that there is a case that can be made that says that he is aiding and abetting the criminal cartels in completing the smuggling cycle. If you look at what the policies that are in place right now, when we release people cross the border illegally, the cartels bring them across the border, then we take them into custody and we release them into the United States, which is what their ultimate goal was in the first place. You could argue that that is aiding and abetting. Then, of course, you have to look at the specific situation when that 24-year-old claimed to be a 17-year-old was released by Health and Human Services to Florida, and he ended up murdering his foster father, who was the father of 4. So you can make arguments that crimes have been committed by people that have been released because of the Biden policy. So, it's possible. There is definitely a potential that it could happen.
Senator Cruz is saying the grounds for it, the high crime and misdemeanor, is a violation of Article 2 of the Constitution, where he swore an oath to faithfully execute the laws of the United States and also swore an oath to defend the Constitution and the American people. Let's watch Senator Cruz on this. Watch this.
I think there are potentially multiple grounds to consider for impeachment. Probably the most compelling is the utter lawlessness of President Biden's refusal to enforce the border, his decision to just defy federal immigration laws and allow 2 million people to come here unimpeded in direct contravention of his obligation under Article 2 of the Constitution to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. That's probably the strongest grounds right now for impeachment, but there may be others.
So there may be others. Brandon, he's saying that Democrats use this as another tool in the partisan war chest. There's a risk of this being like tit for tat. But the senator is saying that, no, this isn't about weaponizing impeachment. It's about crimes and misdemeanors. And let's show the imagery of the Border Patrol agent who was shot at from Mexico on New Year's Day in the Rio Grande, Texas center by either drug or human smuggling cartels. You're going to see images of the government car shot with riddled with bullet holes. So you got to wonder, where's the president, the vice president? Where's Mayorkas on that?
He's missing in action. And that's, you go back to what Senator Ted Cruz said, we have to recognize that this is a brilliant prosecutor. He is an attorney by trade. He's argued before the Supreme Court. And when he says that there is potential charges, he would know what he's talking about. And if you look at this particular case in McAllen, Texas, where this agent was shot at, this is a known problem area. This area, Texas DPS had already been shot at in this area. This area is notorious for bringing drugs across the border, yet we had minimal agents in that area. Again, that's dereliction of duty by the President of the United States, because he continues to release people into the United States, which encourages more people to come. That is going right back to what Senator Ted Cruz says. That's the grounds. But you look at this and this notorious area, you would think that we would have multiple agents there patrolling the border to protect U.S. citizens from the dangerous fentanyl that's coming into the United States, and we're not. If it wasn't for Texas DPS, that area would be completely and totally wide open.
It would be completely and totally wide open. And Brandon, you and I have been talking about this. Under the Biden White House, we now see individuals trying to come into the country from 150 nations around the world, including China, Pakistan. We're talking sections of Asia and the Middle East. So we're seeing that happen, too. But the White House is still fighting against Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. It's in a court fight now. They're going to put it in place for now, provide legal services and consultation to those wanting to claim asylum. But 9 out of 10 of those cases got knocked out. You can't come here for economic reasons. Your final word on that.
Well, and let's be clear, they're really not re-implementing the migrant protection protocols. If you look at El Paso, they're enrolling about 30 people per day. They're just slow walking it. They're not doing what they need to do. They're not doing what they need to do to protect the country.
Brandon Judd, thanks for your service to our country. Come back soon.